there is a question no one asks. Why ask a question no one wants to hear the answer to? No one asks what normalcy is. They do not wish to know. The fear of normalcy is understandable if someone is liberal. Liberals are exceptionalists. There is no normal state of affairs in liberalism. Everything liberals experience are the product of a set of unique, one-off events. Humans, according to the liberal viewpoint, are simply the outcome of a long chain of physical events. What would normal mean if everything is the result of randomity? This is why people think of normalcy as an abstraction, the mean average of a set of graph points. Normalcy is the normal distribution of factors. What is normal is what we have become accustomed to. At least this is what normal is according to this world's way of thinking. To be normal is defined by the outlier, the thing that falls outside of the MOT frequent distribution range. The left is fond of depicting the conservative as far right or an outlier on the graph of normal traits. The conservative is the person who is found outside of the common range of divergence. Which means the mob defines the conservative simply because he does not identify with the common elements. The liberal way of defining conservatives is a fair way of thinking about us, if normalcy means what is common. If a love for Muhammad contains the normal dispersion of responses about Islam, then the graphing of points outside of the normal range is evidence of Islamophobia. But the destruction of normative standards can proceed to a point where reality is denied and what is normal is defined by how one feels. If the norm is defined by what is subjective, then references to scientific data, objective criteria or logic, can be deemed offensive and extremist, hateful and prohibited language. This might be viewed as crazy, but the linkage of what is normal to how we feel, it is a natural progression from phenomenology. If humans are flesh, there is nothing normative about a definition of man. We might say a man is an animal on two legs or a creature with a head disproportionately large compared to body mass. But if we can change and redo our definitions of what we are as a species, then why not alter the definitions of men and women? What is real if words are just labels and what they mean is defined by how they make us feel? For liberals, a man is an identifier of some people, and a woman is the human who identifies as a woman. The reality is that once one claims everything is objective and physical, nothing has meaning as meaning is neither physical nor objective. A human is not an objective thing because human is a label and labels are not objective. This is why we must ask this thing what it is, because looking no longer justifies our own labeling preferences. There is no normative condition in physical reality, there is only our emotions. Truth becomes defined by the level of our emotional reaction to a perception. If we are fearful, the environment is dangerous. That is reality because it is our emotional reality. Emotion is the normative force in liberal reality. The response of the endocrine system to an environmental stimulus defines what is normal in the world of a liberal. Liberals dare not ask what is normal, in the sense of how things ought to be, as the very idea that there is way things are supposed to be, is offensive to them. What is normal is defined by their identity and who they are as a persona. They are as God defining truth and reality out of the depths of their physiology. For a true normal to exist is for something greater than their ego to exist. How dare there be something called normalcy, which defines what a woman is? How can what a woman is be normalized, when the emotional state of a person is not normal? People do not ask what is normal, because they are terrified of getting an answer. People are terrified of realizing what they are is not normal. The discovery of a normative reality is the end of liberalism. Liberalism is the worship of exceptionalism. Yet normal is the most common distribution of exceptional attributes, at least in their eyes. A person is free to be exceptional, in the liberal scheme, but not different. But it was demonstrated that the dispersion of data points is not sufficient grounds for establishing a true normative reality. This is because, despite what liberals have concluded, human beings do not decide what truth and reality is. We do not get to decide what is normal by democracy nor by our lived experiences. Liberals confuse their own preferences with normative reality. This is why liberals love polls and democracy, as if the more people involved in making a choice, the more normalized the decision is. Normal and average are two totally distinct things. Popularity does not normalize an activity, either. Pedophilia will never be normal regardless of how it is labeled or popularized. No amount of acceptance will normalize an abomination. It is said that the population of Sodom and Gomorrah was given over to sexual licentiousness. Homosexuality was such a popular condition the men of Sodom preferred one another to virgin girls. This sexual preference did not normalize the behavior, at least in the eyes of God. It is normal to think normalcy is complex, which is why many think it necessary to hold polls and elections, to determine what the average or popular opinion is. But as we have said, the average and the popular have no bearing on what is true, real, or normal. The normal is the truth, meaning it can be scientifically verified. Interestingly, science cannot validate the proposition that reality is an objectively autonomous substance. There are good reasons for thinking physical reality is a concept that cannot be normalized. This has led some to think that perhaps reality is just ideas. But as others have noted, facts do not care about feelings and our wants do not alter what is normal. So we need a better understanding of reality, if we are to comprehend normalcy. Reality is composed of norms or behaviors and events that have existence. The thing that gives existence to something is its value. If a thing has no value, it has no existence. That which we do not wish to exist we must remove all value from. God is of infinite value, and He is of value because He bestows value on everything with value. God is normative. God sets the standard because He has absolute normative value. God sets the normative standard, but He is perfect, and so the human normative is not the same as the normative of the divine. The human version of normalcy must still incorporate the norm of the divine, in sense of the divine perfection. We are to be perfect as God is perfect. But we cannot be perfect in the way God is perfect. In human terms, what is perfect is that which has value. Humans are only striving to be perfect at the scale of a human being. This need to be normal might not seem much of an ambition, but norms live in an environment that preferences freeloaders, victims, and intersectional virtue signaling. There is no category of persons who is normal, outside of the liberal meaning of the word. A normal person in the liberal system is someone who strives to pay as little as possible for as much as possible. Capitalism is about getting as much as one can for as little as one can pay. But this level of exploitation always creates extraordinary situation and is made possible only by extraordinary conditions. 90% of what happens in this system would not happen without the existence of considerable power disparities between the elites and their subjects. If we were all equal in power, no one would have the ability to externalize costs onto others. We would all be required to pay our own way. This is the normative understanding of equality. The normal state of affairs is each person paying the costs of the things they get. But liberalism always creates exceptional conditions in which what is normal must be suspended. Normalcy exists, but it is defined by God, not by humans. What is normal is what is logically necessary. What is normal is what is morally obligatory. If we are morally, rational human beings doing what is morally right, we would be normal. Norms have value. They are the standard. They are not exceptional in the sense they do not require extraordinary interventions or additional supports. In the vernacular, the norm does not create costs for others. Norms do not impose costs onto society and future generations. It is not normal to do this, Because imposing costs onto others causes abnormal results. We are each responsible for the costs we create. What is normal is what can be replicated. All normal things have inherent value. Normalcy adds value to assets. Therefore, given a pool of assets and a population of norms, the value of the assets is increased. The more normal a population, the fewer extraordinary interventions needed, and therefore the more motivated everyone is. Progress is normal. Progress is what is supposed to happen. What liberals need to explain is how people cannot be prosperous. Poverty is not normal. People are supposed to be able to work. If people cannot work and add value to assets, something is seriously abnormal in the way they live. Experts keep trying to explain why this or that country could not get rich. Liberals look at the barriers to wealth when other peoples in similar or worse situations succeed. The barrier to wealth is insanity. If there is a community and this community has resources, they have everything to make them wealthy. If they are not rich, they are not normal. Stealing, robbery, expropriation and exploitation are not normal conditions or behaviors. It must be made criminal to strive for abnormality. We have a right to be normal and live normal lives. It is not normal to fear others and to lack faith in one's neighbor. It is not normal to see other people as a risk and a threat to property. It is not normal to be exposed to a threat of loss of what one created. But those who claim things under the guise of exceptional circumstances are in danger of losing what they expropriated. We own only what we created, and no one created the world's physical assets but God. God is the rightful owner of all physical property. We need to be concerned about not just the direct cost of crime but the ancillary cost of destroying the trust we ought to have in one another. Faith is the normative condition of man. We have a right to normalcy. We have a right to faith. We have a right to expect our trust will not be exploited. Fear of others is not normal. Why then are we living in fear rather than faith?